and welcome to me and my yarn. Today we are going to make another free shawl and we are going to use this fantastic yarn. It's a medium yarn, acrylic mixed with wool and polyamide, and we are going to use a 5mm hook. Let's get started. Start with a magic ring. And we are going to make 3 chains. 1, 2, 3. And this symbolizes a double crochet, which is a DC. And chain 1 more and a DC in the magic ring. Chain 1, DC in the magic ring. And this is one side of the shawl. So here's the middle. So this one is the middle stitch. Well, one of 2 DCs here. So chain 2 and make another DC. So this is the middle stitch. And chain 1, DC in the magic ring. Chain 1 again and another DC. So this is row 1. So you should have 3 DCs on each side, each with a chain in between and 2 chains in the middle. So we're gonna pull the magic ring closed here, and you do this by pulling the strand and moving the loops like so, just to keep it tight. So this is row 2. We are going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're gonna make our first puff here in the first chain space. So go down 1 and 2 and 3. Since this is a really thick yarn, I only go down 3 times. Usually I do 4, but not with this one. And yarn over again and go through all loops, including the little stitch. And I do 1 closing chain that I pull really tight. And then we are chaining 2 and go down in the same chain space and yarn over again. So that's 1 and 2 and 3. Again, pull through and closing chain. So here we have the first of our puff clusters, and from here we're going to make a larger chain space. So we're going to chain 1, 2 and 3, and this closing chain doesn't count. So the next puff cluster is going in the middle space, and same principle here. 1, 2 and 3, and go through and closing chain. Wow, my skein is coming to get me. So that's 1, and this is the middle of the shawl. And again, 1, 2 for the cluster and the other puff stitch in the same chain space. And yarn over 3 times and closing. So that's the middle. And now we're gonna do the same thing here as we did here. So 3 chains, and we're gonna go down in, we're skipping this chain space and we're going down in the first one, just like we did on the other side. So like so. And if you don't pull up enough loops, or if you pull the loops too tight, you'll get the puffs really, really small. And you can of course do that if you think that that works better for you, but I like to pull them up quite large so you get this cool texture that really pops out. So, and in the middle of the cluster we always make 2 chains. And the last puff stitch for this row, like so, and a closing chain and 1 chain and a DC, a double crochet, also in the chain space. By making these in the chain space and not just going down in the third chain from the previous row, you get a lot of more movements, so you don't lock this like so, you see, and this will make it easier to shape when you have it around your neck or whatever. So I like to keep mine with a little flow in it. So this is what you should have after finishing row 2. Row 3. So we're starting by chaining the 3 for DC, and here we had a DC and a chain, and for this row we're having a DC and 2 chains. So we're increasing the number of chains with 1 here, and that's to make a little bit of a larger space here so that the shawl can grow. And we're gonna go down in the middle chain space between the puffs, and we're gonna make this the same as we did on the previous row. Always 3 yarn over and going down 3 times. So that's the first one, and 2 chains in the middle, and that's the second puff stitch, like so, and the closing chain. So we're gonna build this like branches on a tree and give it a really cool texture. So 1, 2, 3 chains in between, so we get this kind of a chain space leap, and up in the middle chain space of the middle cluster. So that's 1 puff, and 1, 2, and the other puff, like so. And it looks a little bit crooked here, but it's not. We'll finish the row and I'll show you. It sorts it out by itself. And 3 chains for the larger space in between. And skip that and go down in between your 2 puff stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And 1, 2. And the second puff. Like so. And then we're gonna chain 2, 1, 2, and go down here in between the starting chains and your first cluster, just to make it a little bit more able to move, like so. Let's have a look. So this is starting to look like a triangle, like so. So the middle and the 2 branches, and we're gonna make it grow. So row 4, and for this one we're starting with 3 chains, and then since we had 1 chain here extra and then we had 2 here, we're going to make 3 here. So in total you're gonna chain 6 to start with. And then we're gonna go down in the middle of these puff stitch clusters, like so. So we're starting with 1 puff and then 2 chains in the middle, and the other puff, and then 1, 2, 3. So you get this nice large chain space here. So we're skipping this one and going straight for the middle. So in order to get this increase, so the shawl doesn't get, you know, strange, we need to make more puffs in the middle on this round. So row 4 is the first with increases in the middle. But we're starting normal with 1 puff, and then 2 chains, and another puff, like we would any other row. Wait for it. And here we're gonna keep doing the same thing, but we don't want this large chain space up here, so we're just gonna chain 2 and continue with another cluster, just like the ones before, but in the same chain space. Chain 2 and go down again to make the final and fourth puff in the same chain space. So you get 4 puffs with 2 chains in between each and every one of them. And from here, we need another large chain space, like so. And then we're gonna go down here to make another puff cluster to make it look like the branches are reaching out and growing. So that's 1 puff, and then chain 2 and the other puff, like so, closing chain. And from here we need to do the same thing. So we're going to chain 3 because we had 1 chain before the DC, and then we had 2 chains before the DC, and we're having 3 chains before this one, going down in the chain space, like so. So this is what you should have by now. Starting to look like a triangle. This is going to be great. Row 5. So this is where we need to start making another branch in order to make the shawl grow. So we're starting with 3 chains, symbolizing a DC, and then 1 more chain to give it a little space. And then we're gonna go down in the first DC here. You might think that we would go down in the chain space, but if we do that, we wouldn't get this type of hugging tightly, nicely together with the puffs, because here the space is too wide. So this one would just, you know, float out like this and it wouldn't be as pretty. So we need to go down in the DC from the previous row, like so. So we're making the first puff here. 1, 2, and 3. Oh, come on. The yarn's just playing with me. And the closing chain, and then 2 chains. And yarn over and go down 2 more times, so we have 3. Like so. So we've started another branch out here. And then we're gonna make 3 chains to make the large chain space and go down in the middle to continue the branches we've already made, like so. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am, because I love crocheting. I learned crocheting when I was 3 years old, actually, because my mother thought I had a hard time sitting still. So if I kept my fingers busy, I could sit down, and I still had something to do. So I've just continued crocheting since then. So that's the same thing, 2 puffs and 2 chains in between. Large chain space, so chain 3. And we're gonna go down in the first chain space in the middle. Oops, like so, yarn over. So we get the beautiful puff stitches, like so. And 1, 2. And another puff in the same space. 2 and 3. And closing chain. So this is where we started another branch, but still we need to continue so we get to the middle. So this is in between here. This is going to be a large chain space, so we're going to make 3 chains, even though it's a little small right now, but it will all sort itself out. So go down in the middle chain space, 1, 2, and 3. And 1, 2, because it's a cluster together. Same chain space, because we've made one here. We always make them 2, like pairs. 1, 2, because it's always more fun together, isn't it? Like so. So we get one cluster here, and this is the middle stem or middle branch of our oak tree. So here, in order to get it to fan out the correct way, we're gonna make 3 chains. And we're gonna go down in between these puffs here. So, closing chain, 2 chains. So it's basically the same things repeated over and over again. You just have to keep tabs on small differences between the rows and repeats. So this is what the middle looks like. So this is the middle part, and it continues up all the way through with every row. And here you get these branches out to the side, which is the same thing as we've started here. And we're gonna keep making them come out from the center as we go. So another large chain space, 1, 2, 3. And continuing this branch. 1 puff stitch, and 1, 2 chains, and another puff stitch. I think it's such a funny word. Puff stitch. And from here, we want another large chain space. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And then in order to get it to work, just like we did when we started back here, we need to go down in the 3rd chain from the previous row. So we're gonna count this. It's 1, 2, and 3. Well, let's see, it's easier from this way. 1, 2, 3, because you see it's somewhere in the middle, like so. And we're gonna make 2 puffs here. 1, 2, and 3. And 1, 2 chains. And the second puff. Closing chain, and then we're gonna make 1 chain and then the DC in the same stitch. So a lot of stitches in the same stitch. And let's have a look. So this is what it looks like now. So we're having new branches on each side and the original ones, and then we're making these 2 come out here. Row 6, chain 3 for the DC, and then we had 1 chain here. That means we need to do 2. So we have the increase, 1 and then 2. So 5 chains in total. Go down and make the puff cluster, which is 1 puff and 2 chains in the middle. You should have this by now. And if I'm going too fast, you can always pause and take it at your own pace, no hurry. And then chain 3 and the other cluster. 1, 2, and puff stitch. I so like the shine to this yarn. It gives it such a cool effect. 1, 2, 3, large chain space. And this is the middle one. So we're still at the first side. And puff there, and a puff puff here, and a puff puff there. So I hope you're enjoying this crocheting together just as much as I am. Everything crochet is great. Well, if you ask me. Not frogging though, I hate that. Give me a comment if you also hate frogging, or if you love it. I would really like to know if there's anybody who loves frogging, because it's horrifying. you know, just seeing that you've done something wrong somewhere and you need to, you know, start over. And just, it's like pulling out your heart thread by thread. Oh, I hate frogging. Yeah, back to business. So this is the side, sorry. So we have the branches going out and then chain 3 in order to get up to the middle. So 1, 2, 3. And the middle. So we're doing the middle puff now. The middle puffs. There's actually 2 of them. And chain 3. So we can jump to the next branch. And it's just basically the same thing. 2 puffs together and 2 chains in between. It's like dancing. Dancing puffs all together. It's all kind of poetic if you see it like that. Well, you can see it any way you like it, but I think it's kind of cute. And 1, 2, 3 chains. Going back to this one. The other stem. Like so, and 2 in the middle. And if you like what I do and you like my patterns, don't forget to check out, because I have many more on my channel and on my websites. So please check out what I have in the description box and see if you can find anything else you like, or my other videos, so you don't miss any other good stuff. Reviews, patterns, lots of good stuff on crochet, you know. And don't be afraid to share these videos with your friends, you know, the more the merrier. You can all sit down and crochet together. So we've reached the end here. And we're gonna chain 2. Because we had 1 here and then 2. And then make a DC in the chain space between where we started and the first puff. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any other free patterns or good stuff. We wouldn't want that, would we? No. And push the notification bell because you want the notifications. Absolutely, you don't want to miss anything good. Like so. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 with the first increase, 5 and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Row 7. Yep, row 7 coming up. So chain 3, row 7, chain 3, and then we need 3 more to make the large chain space. And we're skipping this and going straight for this branch. 1, 2, 3, and 2 chains. And the second puff. 1, 2, 3. Large chain space. Like so. Have you made any of my other shawls or other patterns maybe? If you have tried them, please drop a comment below. I would love to know which is your favorite of my patterns. And if you have any special favorite stitches, because it's always nice to know what other people like. And if you have any stitches you really, really hate, I would also love to know that. And why? Why do you hate a certain stitch? Ooh, that would be fun. Maybe I'd have to do a special about that if I had a lot of comments on it. let me know. It would be really cool to know if you hate any stitches or if you love any stitches, and for what reason. So we've reached the middle again. Oh, that's good. And here we need to make the same increase as we did on row 4. So we have 2 ordinary in between, and then we have the special one with the increase. So we're chaining 2, and then we're making the second cluster. So we get all of 1, 2, all of the puff stitches that we need in the middle. 1, 2. So we get the 4, and we're gonna make 3, not 2, sorry, 2, to get that leap to the other one. And we're continuing on our journey together. In order to make the branches grow, we need to keep continuing crocheting. So let's go. We're crocheting and crocheting so fast that all of our hooks will catch on fire. Well, I haven't really been able to pull that one off yet, but if I do, I'll let you know, definitely. That would be cool. Make it smoke because I'm going so fast. So this is the other puff cluster. Reaching our final destination for this row, the end station, the end of the row. Whoa. 1, 2. And if you make any of my patterns, please tag me. I love seeing your beautiful, beautiful, fabulous work. It's so much fun. So we've reached the end station, so to say. So we're gonna make, that's 1, 2, and 3. And a DC in the chain space from the previous row. Like so. Row 8. So it's time to make another branch. So chain 3, and then another one, so 4 in total. Go down, and we're gonna make the first puffs of the new branch. Yay, another branch. And 2, 3, like so, and 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. For a large chain space, and go down and between in the cluster. 1, 2. Can you believe I actually used to hate puff stitches? Now I use them all the time. Because, I mean, it gives the shawls, it gives the shawls this unique texture and look to it. It's just hard not to like them. But I found it really, really hard to keep the puffs even because the yarn wanted to slip away all the time. But now, a lot of practice. Practice makes perfect, you know. It's not fun when you practice. It actually sucks a lot of the time. But you have to, sometimes failure leads to something better. And if I can do it, you can do it. I actually hated puff stitches so much that I used to substitute them to popcorns or something else. It's not the same thing. Absolutely not. So it works. I don't know if it would be as pretty on this pattern. I would encourage you to do the puffs, but been there as I hated them. I used to make popcorns instead, I confess. Not my proudest moment, but it's all right as long as you're happy with your project. You can do your project however you want it. It's your project, your time, and your crocheting, so nobody can tell you what to do and what not to do. Do what you want. It's supposed to be fun, you know? Because I used to hate these, as I said, because I couldn't make them even. Now I've learned my tricks. You know, I don't know if you've seen it, but I'm kind of keeping my finger on the loops because it helps me to keep them even. But you learn your tricks. So here, in order to make it even, we've made one cluster here, and then we're making a large chain space with 3 chains to jump up to the middle cluster. Yeah, give me the comments. I really want to know the juicy stuff. Do you hate any stitches? Do you love any stitches? And why? So much fun. You know, we're exchanging experiences and fears and hopes and dreams, because I always wanted to make, you know, nice puff stitches, but I couldn't. Until I could, because I didn't give up. You know, don't give up. You can do it. I promise. But don't forget, it might suck in between, but you'll get there. Don't give up. And if you want to give up, still don't give up. Try it. Or substitute it for a while and try again later. That's okay too. So that's the middle, and we have the increases on both sides of the middle. You're starting to see the symmetry, I guess. And the new little stem here, like something in the spring, just branching out. New branches, new beginnings, new possibilities to learn the puff stitch. Yeah. Look at how I made that one. That was clever, wasn't it? No, I'm just kidding. You can do it. Don't be upset if you can't do it at first. You know, just keep at it. Keep at it. Looking good. I'm hoping that you also take a little bit of time just to, you know, step back, take a look at what you've accomplished, because it's so much fun. You know, sometimes you're just doing your stitches and you're kind of just doing one after another, and you're not just taking the time to step back and really just look at what you've accomplished and look at what you've done, because it's, you know, it's beautiful watching it growing like a tree, or just, you know, it's kind of like magic. You're waving around this stick with a piece of thread, a yarn, and you're making something really beautiful out of it. You have to take a moment every now and then to enjoy what you're accomplishing, because it's magical in some way. I think it's magical. But, you know, it's important with imagination. And it's okay to enjoy what you do. There's no harm in that. As I said, I love crocheting, and I'm not ashamed of it. And you shouldn't be either. It's fun. So chain 3, and then we're gonna make a new branch on this side. So you need to make sure not to forget that you have to make the same increase on this side, because if you forget, the shawl will be uneven and you'll have to frog. You know, frogging, ooh, you have to frog it. Not all of it, but a piece of it, and that's not fun. So look at that. We have chain spaces, and then one extra chain here, and then the DC and the same stitch. And row is done. Well done. Look at this. Okay, are you ready for row 9? The last one before we start with our repeats. So chain 3. We just made another increase here with the branch. So we had 1 extra chain here. That means that we need to make 2 here. So we're chaining 3 for a DC, and then we're chaining 2 more. So 5 in total, but 2 for the increase. And then we're skipping the chain space and going in the cluster, like we've done before. You know it. Yes, you do. And then 1, 2. And 2 and 3, and a closing chain. 1, 2, 3. And we're continuing the branches. And the further we go, the more puff stitches there'll be, because we get more and more with every increase. And that's the way we like it. And chain 3. And more puffs. And like so. And 3 for the larger chain space. And I also have a written version of this on my website. And if you like what I do, you can always support me by buying a pattern. Even my free ones are available there on either Ravelry or Etsy. And you have all the links in the box below and on my website if you know where to find me. And even that one is included in the box below, so you do know where to find me. Two in between, like so, and we're coming up on the middle here. So this is row 9, and after we've done row 9, we are going to repeat from row 4 until row 9. 1, 2, 3, large chain space there. But it doesn't quite add up if we don't do as many repeats. So we need to repeat from row 4 until row 9 to get the increases to line up correctly. But you've done it so far, so I know you can do it. No problems. And you can just, if you're feeling insecure about how to do it, you can always rewind and we can do it together again. You know, just keep going at it together. It's easier than alone sometimes. And you have the written instructions on my website, as I said. So if you don't want to hear me babble all the time, you can write it down or have it in your phone, and you can just read the text instead of hearing me saying it all the time. Whichever you prefer. I just want to share my joy of crocheting with you. Any way you like it. So this is how it looks. We've gotten the increases and the larger chain spaces. And we're continuing down the final side. And then you make the repeats in order to make the shawl bigger. Yeah, I know you know that, but I'm still saying. Not all of us have done this for a long time, so it's easy if you've done it a lot of times. But if you're just starting out, it might not be as easy, and you know, we've all been there. So no harm in that. It's okay. And it's so much fun to see it grow. I love seeing my shawls grow. And if you have color changes too, oh, I always go faster and faster, as if I'm gonna reach that color change faster, which you do, but still so much fun, and you're just longing for the next color change. Excitement. Well, you know, yarn is exciting, isn't it? Of course it is. Otherwise we wouldn't be here doing this. It's because we love yarn, crocheting, and hugging them, and, you know, crazy yarn lady. Yeah, I confess. But so do you. 2 chains here in order to make it right and go down between the puff and the first row of chains, like so. And that's row 9. So from here, you're gonna repeat row 4, which is, let's see, this was the first one with the DCs. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the first row that you're gonna repeat from with the first increase and the 3 extra chains. And then you're gonna repeat all the way to out here. So you have 1 increase, and then you have 2 normal, and then 1 increase, and then 2 normal. Like so. And don't forget that you increase with 1, and then you increase with 2 and 3, and then you make a new branch. Like so. Look at this. It's getting pretty. And stay tuned for the edge, which is a separate video, because this is such a large and long video, so it's a separate one. Don't miss it, because you want to know how to make the edge too. Yeah, stay tuned.